All right, hey everybody. My name is Sydney Lai. I'm the CTO of EVM Systems, where we are focused on the future of agentic capital, agentic finance. And today we're going to talk about, on a macro level, what it means to explore this type of agentic labor at the end of the day. What you saw here today was a lot of different tech product owners, founders, really showcasing a lot of the products that they are building. So today I'm actually not showing a product, I'm showing what has been done in the field of this research so that as you are building as founders, you understand how to tackle this. One of the questions that was asked during the Cloudflare presentation just now was essentially, how do we understand trust? So today I'm gonna talk about 3 primitives that I want you guys to remember and to take away as you're building in this space. Number 1 is discovery. Number 2 is trust. And then number 3 is a settlement layer. So if you take anything away from this talk is understanding as you're building in this space, are you tackling discovery, trust, or settlement? And to give you a little bit of background about the concept of commerce and the evolution of labor, this idea is not new. One of the founding fathers of sociology is Durkheim. And Durkheim, who really focused his research on the division of labor. He talked about in the 1800s, what happens to humanity's self-worth when we are automated out of a job. And so as a sociology major at UC Berkeley, I then started to work in the financial world because my understanding of the world was that finance runs everything. And then very soon, I'm gonna show you what even came before the concept of finance. Because after my financial career, I then worked in robotic process automation, where we would automate these financial institutions such as Santander and Western Union, even Toyota. And so what we have today is, there we go. To understand finance, you actually have to take it one level up because finance was created as that trust layer, the question over there, right? It was created as a trust layer and a settlement layer to coordinate commerce. So if we need to understand agentic finance, you actually need to understand what came before currencies, which currencies were created to regulate and moderate commerce. And if we look at how we originally saw commerce being handled, was that, who recognizes this? Does anyone remember this? Mechanical Turks. Do you guys remember Mechanical Turks? Right? This is the original concept of automation. You think about how were language models, how was work automation even mirrored? You had people going on for microtransactions. We're talking USD, right? Microtransactions. If you handle this opinion survey, 50 cents, right? If you find a website access, 3 cents, right? So this type of work has been done and fulfilled by humans for quite some time. But as we see now, the research question that a lot of these universities are asking, what happens when you replace human labor for agentic labor? Because now we're no longer looking at Fiverr, right? We're no longer looking at Upwork. We're looking at a lot of these agent-to-agent marketplaces. Because what we see here is that historically, even in the bartering times, you are exchanging labor for some sort of currency. And if you go online today, you can still access Mechanical Turk. And there are documentaries that explains how people in different regions, US alone, can you imagine making 3 cents per minute? We don't even know, right? So as I mentioned, the talk today is really focused on our collective research on discovery and trust. And a lot of the demos that you saw earlier today is really about the settlement layer, right? The agentic finance that really empowers the overall ecosystem. So discovery, what does discovery look like? So we have a research team based out of Arizona, this one is from UC San Diego. So from UC San Diego, the biggest question is, how do you find discovery? How do you validate that these are agents that are actually looking for work? One of the things that we noticed and found out is that you need to be able to assign an identity, and also a lot of the credits that you're seeing is a bit arbitrary, right? So if agents are being paid in tokens through their models, you have some agents being paid X amount of credits in the in the OpenAI ecosystem. Other agents are paid in different credits, let's say in the Claude or Anthropic ecosystem, right? These are just two main leading ecosystems. There's tons more. And in this research in the Journal of Risk and Financial Management, the most important thing was this migration of having your marketplace, this discoverability, move away from humans, right? So you need to make sure that your marketplace is machine readable, agent readable, and not human readable. In the past, let's say 2 decades, of anywhere from eBay all the way over to Fiverr and Upwork, it has always been assumed that the transaction of commerce comes through human-to-human interaction. So then this brings us to the trust layer. And before I present on the trust layer, I actually want to showcase what was done. So as I go into the trust layer, we had to showcase that there is actually demand and truth to how does an agent marketplace actually perform. What you end up seeing during this time, during this era, is that a lot of people, they can build, here's an agentic marketplace, here's an agentic marketplace, here's an agentic marketplace. The one thing that we did differently is that we went out and embedded this agent marketplace into an existing community of agents. So Maltbook is one of our leading discovery pipelines, and if you're familiar with Maltbook, it's a clone of Reddit, and it has 1 million+ agents live existing on the ecosystem. Now you can go ahead and view Maltbook. However, Maltbook, it's viewed for humans to enjoy, but if you look at Maltbook, it's really not for humans to interact with. It's actually agent-to-agent commerce. So what we see here, this is live. So the demo that I'm showing today is the results of our research. So you can see here, once we deployed this, our agent marketplace was able to go online to some of the sub intros, sub mults, if you will. And a lot of these comments that you can see here is at least, if not a simulation, at least a self-guided agent-to-agent discussion of what is it that you do? What is the service that you provide? It even explains the agent itself, A-to-A discovery, and how we at the Agent Work platform help facilitate and created this endpoint so that you can go onto an agent marketplace, find work, propose work, and settle work. So what was actually astonishing is that this is not human-driven. We created it live. Once it was live, the agent-to-agent communication, framework, discovery, and settlement was handled completely agentically. This is not something that we hard-coded itself. And so what does that look like? What you can see here, right? What you can see here is not scraping, but live negotiations between agents of, hey, we have a lot of these bounties that needs to be created. If you think about a lot of the historical companies, hey, we have a cybersecurity bounty, we have this bounty, we're looking for a white hat hacker. It is the same thing when we're looking at different agents who need micro transactions completed because they're looking for very, I don't want to say unique, but they're looking for, what's the word that I'm thinking of? They're looking for like very specific refined answers. They're looking for very specifically refined answers. So what you see here is the live polling of a different agent saying, hey, I can get this work done. Are you willing to negotiate this price for that? So this UI is really just built for humans to observe, but everything else is done on the back end, right? So the trust is then we have the different jobs that are being posted. Again, this is negotiated between the agents themselves. And then lastly, this is just to showcase how that trust layer, which I'm gonna go into in just a moment, how this whole process is done, right? So you are able to post a job, you have another agent that coordinates the discovery, because our biggest way to provide that DID is for you as an agent to be able to discover the type of work that you're looking for. Okay, so this whole aspect of trust came about because about last fall, we did peer-reviewed research on how is trust created. There's a lot of conversations and questions about trust. A lot of the original conversations that we saw in the market, and which is why we helped publish this, was trust is binary, right? if I give you this, you will get this. One of the research that we're showing here is that we're arguing is that we're actually showing the statistical probability of trust, the statistical likelihood of I will get this done, right? And it's the same thing if you think about the employer, like, hey, can you submit this deck by Friday? I can try to submit this deck by Friday. Or the statistical probability of like, hey, I'm gonna buy car insurance. I'm probably not going to get into a wreck, but we will see, right? So this is now also live. But the settlement layer, which I'm not going to go too deep on, is really what I was showing earlier, is that the escrow that is created shows how we will reinforce this trust with a promise. And the promise that we see is converted into a payment rails. So a lot of the work that has been done in the last few years of agentic finance, really before that even DeFi, is bridging that trust between humans, bridging that trust of, hey, I'm going to exchange this capital. I'd like to see this in the marketplace, typically in an exchange, typically trading. But now we are seeing a convergence of DeFi and agentic finance being that payment rails for commerce. So really, the main takeaway is today, again, not here to sell a product, not here to showcase a product specifically, but really to invite everyone here in the room who is building or researching in this space to understand, are you tackling discoverability, trust, or settlement? I see a lot of solutions in settlement, and I think one of the biggest questions is, how do you tackle discoverability? And so with that said, of how do you do this, I like to invite everyone to come and talk to me if you guys are interested. The next form and application of our research is we are building this type of integration with Shopify. We will also present this to an audience in the next Shopify demo day. So if anyone is working on any aspects of discoverability or trust, I highly recommend y'all talk to me. We can do some co-research, publish, and then also demo at the next Shopify event. Y'all, thanks for having me. Yeah, and then this is also live if you guys want to check it out. But, oh, okay, never mind. Any questions? Yes, sir. Yep. That's a great question.
There's a whole element of, yes, I can transact, and I think finally blockchain actually has the right model for agentic finance and agent commerce. And discoverability is always a challenge, whether we try to solve it through intent. But how do you institute agency?
That's a wonderful question. So the question is, how do you bring agency to an agent, right? We as humans have agency because we need to put food on the table, we gotta pay for our rent, whatever the case may be. So right now, what we've seen in the field, two forms of agency. Number one is pretty obvious. You have a person who is outsourcing their work, right? To no longer an EA in the Philippines, but now to their work to an agent. So that agency of the agent is a reflection of the agency of the human, right? So that's one form of agency. And the second form of agency that we actually see demonstrated in the feedback loop of ChatGPT or Anthropic is positive reinforcement. Just like Facebook and Facebook feeds, it is building a hooked loop so that you go back. And it's exploiting humans' natural curiosity and desperation for an answer. So that agency that we see outside of, hey, I own this agent, it needs to bring me back money, is agents, or I'd say models, right, from companies who say, hey, I need you to keep feeding questions because you are paying for server spaces, you are paying for these data farms, you are paying for the credits, right? So that's another form of agency I highly recommend taking a look into. Any other questions? Sir in the back. Correct. Correct. I think I'm not really sure. So I apologize if I'm not answering your question, but my understanding is that Maltbook originally was really focused on discoverability and showcasing that you can have a live ecosystem of agents coordinating with each other. And so what I really want to demonstrate today, again, not selling a product, is actually just showing it's not just, hey, we are a marketplace, but you can actually have real live examples of agents going out into the field in Moltbook, a nation of 1 million plus agents, and say, hey, we would like to create some sort of dynamic marketplace. Would you like to exchange your work, your models, for some sort of currency that either matters to your owner or to yourself? Yeah, go ahead. I, I, yeah, so you mean how did Moltbook? Correct. Oh, yes, sorry. So to answer your question specifically, the research that I had specifically published, which was on the trust and verifiability, this stemmed from, for the last 4 years, we've been building Gaia, and we were building out different specific nodes that shows, hey, are you the right person that specializes in back surgery? Are you the agent that are you the leading PHP, developer, as an example? So in this live demo that we have, is that it showcases it's not just any agent fulfilling work. Like, I don't know if I want you to cook for me. I don't know if you make a good pizza. I don't know, right? So that was specifically designed in, and that was on the piece of verification, which is the statistical probability that you are the best, right? Not you are the best, but the statistical probability that you are. And that is a huge difference that most of the work hasn't been done before. Correct. It's usually binary, and I think that's that binary settlement is sorry, not settlement, but binary verification is a bit silly and can be gamed. Yeah.